All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Angel Hicks. I am, of course, the CEO and founder of Evolve Women's Network, and I have a special guest today with us. They are our sponsors for Evolve and Happy Hormone Cottage. I have Jeff Hogrefe here. He is the husband, as you imagine, of Lyn Hogrefe, who is the CEO and founder of Happy Hormone Cottage. So, Jeff, I've heard Lyn's story several times, but I want to hear from your perspective. What happened that day when you figured out that Lyn had some kind of hormone imbalance?
Gotcha. I think it's just the universe, how the universe works together. I mean, I'm working as a pharmacist and I love compounding. That was my thing. So when I was working in a retail environment, any compounding stuff would be like, I'm doing this. This is my thing. I just have a real passion for this. And so 17 years with a chain, and then I went out and worked with an independent. And with the independent, we did a lot of regular prescriptions, but we were also looking at like throwing darts to kind of find out what kind of market can we get into to make us successful. So the compounding came up and I'm like, sign me up, right? Let me lead the charge with this. This is my passion. This is the direction you want to go. So that's when I got very involved in terms of getting out there and visiting different places and seminars about what is compounding. So in the process of this, I started reading about estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and these formulations called biased and triest. And I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I have no clue about any of this. This is not taught to me. I know Premarin, right? I know commercial stuff. So that got me searching a little bit. So through the process of compounding and just connecting with different people and getting, at that point, it was DVDs and VCR tapes and stuff, learning about bioidentical. And it was like a totally different thing for me. I say, this is going to the dark side. This is not what I was taught, but this all makes sense. I'm like, the lights are on with me. This makes sense biochemically. So at that same time, then Lyn was going through her issues with hormone imbalance and fibroids. So it just kind of came together. And so being knowledgeable about this versus what traditionally strategists is, honey, I think we want to go this route, okay? Again, I'm not terribly familiar, but I have a good idea. Let's have this conversation with your doc. Let's kind of move in this direction, see what happens, okay? So Lyn did start off with commercial therapy. At the time for about 3 months, and I knew we got a problem here. She's different, this isn't working right. So the flip from the commercial product to the bioidentical was kind of like the light switch for her to get her on this path. And when it worked for her, then she got really excited about it. And that's when she started paying attention to other women too. So that's my side of the story. Anyway.
Yeah, she credits you with saving her life, so that's pretty amazing.
Well, she credits me with a lot. But it was just this process for about 6-8 months of really kind of gathering information and seeing what she was going through, and then pulling it all together is what it was.
Amazing. So today you want to talk to us about hair loss.
Right.
So tell us kind of that journey that you're taking now, and whatever you want us to know about that.
Oh yeah, sure. So hair loss is near and dear to my heart, as you can probably tell. So I have been losing my hair since probably my early 40s, and I'm 57 now. So this is a 20-year process. And in this process, I've tried several therapies, commercial. So we were using medications, using shampoos. I even went so far as to do PRP therapy with my good buddy, Dr. Ellison, who's injecting PRP into my scalp. Right. I mean, that's how aggressive I got. And we did this 4 or 5 times, trying to figure out how to grow hair. And it just got to the point where I was zero-sum game. I wasn't winning this battle. And so I kind of said, all right, I'm going to step away from this. Bald is beautiful, right? So that's where I was with this. And of course, you know, we do seminars, we do all kinds of training over the course of the year. So A4M is kind of my big training ground that I like to go. And so whenever there's a guy, an MD or a specialist talking about hair loss, I'm like, I'm there. I'm going to listen to what he has to say. But I wasn't getting any good information at that point. Even the top dogs that do hair loss for a living weren't telling me anything that I didn't already know or I hadn't already tried and wasn't successful at. So about a month ago, we came across some information from one of our genetic labs who was starting a test for hair loss, very specific to the genetics around hair loss. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I've never really known that you could really search out genetics. I figured there was some genetic components to hair loss, absolutely, but never to tease out all the good information. So I said, all right, we're going to do this. So I had another one of our clients who was having hair loss issues too. So I became patient 1 and she became patient 2 in terms of let's do a little trial to see what the results look like and then what the therapies look like as well. So we did this, we sent off, we did our DNA test, came back with the results. And I'm like, getting the results was like, this is really cool. This is really telling my story in genetics. Yeah. The stuff that I had used didn't work. And my genetics said, this doesn't work for you. This might, but this doesn't. So I had done all this stuff that didn't work. I said, okay, there's some truth to that. And some of the therapies they recommended for me weren't available at the time I was looking. So I'm like, okay, let's take a look at this. So then I looked at my client's labs too, and she had similar but different genetics. It was teasing out and kind of digging in the weeds in terms of what might be causing hair loss. And so having a conversation with her and going over those results and coming up with a separate strategy for her versus me is where we're at. So now we're at the point, well, let's give this a whirl. Let's see if what this genetics tells us translates into successful therapy. So that's kind of where we're at now. So very exciting for us.
So exciting, so exciting. So it's more, the hair loss is more genetic than it has to do with hormones, or is it kind of a combination of both?
So yeah, we're looking at a combination of both. And I think one of the biggest issues with women is hair loss and why is it happening? And so we're picking up women during various times causing hair loss. And so menopause is one of these strategic or critical times when women start complaining about hair loss, okay? Just kind of a thinning or the shine's gone or the fullness of thickness is gone. And that's probably estrogen related, right? Because at menopause, you have very low estrogen levels. Up until that point, you really don't. But at 51, 52, a woman typically will go into very low estrogen levels. So giving her estrogen therapy and seeing an improvement in like overall texture and quality of the hair is like what we see. Versus a woman comes to us with perimenopause, maybe in her 30s, maybe post having her 3rd kid or something, where thyroid can go off whack. So then we're thinking maybe it's not estrogen because you're not having estrogen issues, but the likelihood of having thyroid issues is much stronger. So then let's look at the thyroid component of this, because we know that women with low thyroid will have thinning, right? Their hair will start overall kind of thinning. So that thick head of hair starts getting thinner and thinner. And that's probably related to some sort of thyroid issue. So we'll start there and start looking at the thyroid component of this.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So if these women want to find out more about their own hormones, or their own hereditary issues with hair loss, or any of these issues that you've talked about today, how do we get a hold of you?
So always connect with the Happy Hormone Cottage. You know, you do it, just go to the website, the best way. Reach out to us, do a step 1. A step 1 can be done with Lyn. She does group step 1s, which are really cool. Get about 6 women in a Zoom conference, and they all kind of share their story and get to know each other a bit. If you're not that way, that's fine. We do individual Zoom sessions too, but understand we walk you through what we do, how we do it, some of the costs involved, and what we're looking for. And that's where you start. And from there, we do various testing. You know, hormone testing is done with dried urine. It's a take-home kit. $350 gives us all kinds of results. And that's a good starting ground. And then you can tease out, like if you have a special interest in thyroid, we can do, you know, blood panels with thyroid. If you have a special interest in genetics, that's another area. So hair loss, we do a lot with estrogen metabolism genetics, because that to me is the key to breast cancer. It really is. We can pick up risk of breast cancer with doing a $299 genetic test.
That is so
and come up with
fascinating.
strategies to say, let's take care of these.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Okay, Jeff. Well, thank you so much for your
You're
time.
welcome.
I will put the website up there and everyone will have the information. And I really, really appreciate it. This is just fascinating stuff.
Oh, I'm glad to do it.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Bye now.